Urban Media Today talks sports with Ray Porter Jr., Vince Butts, and Trevin A. Jones on Urban Media Today Radio.
It's game time!
Urban Media Today talks sports. We got Trevin A. Jones. Did I do that again? I didn't mean to do that, right? We got Ray Porter Jr. We got Greg Hoy Jr., Coach Kenneth Blakeney, and then yours truly, I'll say Trevin A. Jones there. I'll put it on the end, Ray, okay? We're sitting here. We're talking hoops. We're talking with Coach Blakeney, speaking with Coach Blakeney. And Coach Blakeney, who grew up in D.C., went to DeMatha High School. We talked about that. He introduced himself. But also, what I wanted to talk about, Coach, is this. There's 4 or 5 coaches in your experience. You have Coach Morgan Wooten, then you got Coach K at Duke, and then you got Coach Lefty Drizel, then Mike Bray, and then Tommy Amaker too. But I want to start with Duke and Coach K, with Coach Mike Krzyzewski. When you were playing in 91, 92, I think was your freshman year, there were at least 6. There were 6 players that you played with who were NBA players. Then in your sophomore year, in 92 to 93, and I think you won national championships your freshman year and sophomore year, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In 92 to 93, you had 4 NBA players on your team, future NBA players. And then in 93, 94, you had 3 future NBA players on your team. And then in 94, 95, you had 2 future NBA players on your team. And then someone else I want to talk about a little bit later, you had a coach who's now at the University of Pittsburgh. Coach Jeff Capel was also your teammate for 2 years, I believe, because he came in behind you. But I have to ask you this, Coach. 91, 92, your freshman year, coming out of DeMatha High School, coming out of D.C., going to Duke, and you're playing with Christian Laettner. You're playing with Grant Hill. You're playing with Antonio Lang. You're playing with Cherokee Parks. You're playing with Brian Davis. You're playing with Thomas Hill, Bobby Hurley. Coach, that had to, how did you keep yourself grounded trying to make this team? You got to talk about that.
Well, it was great. I mean, honestly, because times were so different, you got Hoop Scoop and you had Blue Ribbon Magazine and you might have had, those kind of publications. So you read about those guys, but you didn't see video of them and you didn't have the highlight films and there was no social media. So it was kind of great to play against and compete against those guys every day. I'm a very competitive guy. So even though I wasn't on those guys' caliber, in my head, I thought I was. And I competed in that way, going up against a Grant Hill, who I've known since we were 13 years old, or a Bobby Hurley. Brian Davis and I played on the same AAU team when we were in high school. He's a couple of years older than me, and I played up. But Brian has been a guy that I've known since I was 14, 15 years old. So it was a neat experience to kind of go and compete against those guys. I mean, if you look at Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, and Grant Hill, those 3 guys are 3 of the top 50 players that ever play in college basketball history. What an accomplishment for those guys. And it was just kind of neat to be a part of it. It was neat to participate and do all the wonderful things that our team had a chance to do. So I'm a little lucky, to be honest with you. I feel like I joke around a whole lot and say I'm like the Black Forrest Gump, because I just find myself in those kind of magical moments and situations, man. I've been very lucky and blessed with that.
Well, it sounds like they bring another 5-star in on campus, because I hear the Office of Sirens back behind you. So I don't know if they bring in 5 stars. Is another another 5-star parade coming to Howard. That's every time the sirens go off, it's another 5-star, another transfer coming to Howard. Welcome to Zamunda.
I love it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I love it.
Coach, I had a question as well in reference to the Duke years. As a youngster, I was probably about 17, 18 during those years, and watching the NCAA tournament intently, and watching the Duke team intently. I mean, I've always had great respect for Coach K. I met him while I was covering Pitt, and just such a nice guy. He's taller than I thought he was, that's for sure. Either that I'm just short, but just a great team, and I've always admired your team concept. And what was it like to just experience? I mean, y'all had some of the top wins in NCAA tournament history, beating, of course, UNLV, ending their undefeated streak, and then beating Kansas with Roy Williams, and then the following year beating Bobby Knight, and then beating the 5-5. What was that like? It's, you know, you coming in and winning 2 championships, national championships.
Yeah, Ray, you just gave me chill bumps. That's how powerful those moments were. The really neat thing about our team is that we all, and I know it's been documented that there might have been friction and stuff like that. That may be more glamorized for TV and for the optics of what sells. But at the end of the day, when you saw one of us, you would see 6 of us, or you would see 7 of us. We never did things on our own. We never, like, our group was so close and so tight knit. And quite honestly, the only thing we talked about is winning. And, you know, it was, I remember Brian Davis telling me, he when I was on my visit, I was leaving, he goes, man, if you know, he goes, if you don't come to Duke, you're going to regret not winning a national championship. And, you know, that was kind of that was what we were, that's how we were built. That was in our DNA. And coming from DeMatha, where I had a chance to win a whole lot and playing some great games, it seemed only natural for me to continue that path at Duke, where those kind of games were being played. I think at the time when I signed, Duke had gone to 6 out of 8 Final Fours maybe, and had an incredible run, but never got over the hump. And so those guys knew they were right there. And, you know, we got a young Coach K that was hungry, passionate, enthusiastic, tough, and competitive. And he was the guy, he was the driving force to us all kind of galvanizing and coming together to be able to achieve such an incredible goal.
So, Coach, again, this is Coach Greg Hoy, playing for Los National Recruiting. I'm elated. I know you talked about the statement that was made, being an intellectual guy that you are. You definitely did right in the classroom, getting yourself prepared to go into Duke. And you said, the statement was made, if you don't come to Duke, you're not going to win a national championship. So let's talk to recruits now in Detroit. Maybe an intellectual kid that, has a 3.9 GPA. Maybe he's a 7-footer, and he's trying to make an intellectual decision like you to go to maybe a historic white college or come to Howard University, to Zamunda, a.k.a. Zamunda, to play for a coach that it is intellectual, that is smart enough to reason and weigh his decision on leaving, the DMV and going to Duke University. What would you say to that recruit and that family?
Yeah, well, for me, all my decisions were based on education and academics. And I think a lot of us need to take that kind of path and base our decision on how can we position ourselves for an incredible opportunity to, I think, live our lives for the next 40 to 50 years after we're done playing. And us at Howard that's one of the things we really try to show and share with student athletes and their families in the presentation. My mom grew up in South Carolina, and during the time that she grew up, man, she had to pick cotton and wasn't allowed to go to school some years. So when she graduated at 20 years old from high school, and moved to Washington, D.C. to provide a better opportunity for her kids and her family, she really stressed academics and education. And, in these times and days where our world is so turbulent, I think the value of an education is even greater and even stronger for African-American kids, inner city kids, like you mentioned, kids in Detroit. It is so important for us to understand that, there's only probably 50 to 55 jobs that change hands every year in the NBA. What are those other 4,000 student athletes doing? What opportunities do they have? So it's kind of like a supply and demand chart a little bit. The demand is for, a small group of players. So the masses like what are they going to do? So that education, having a chance to really get concentrate on your academics, learn as much as you can. We take a look at, we did a case study at Howard for our recruits. And what we found is that, in the Power Fives, 55 to 60% of football players and basketball players are African-American in the Power Five, which makes up 2% probably of all those different campuses. And the 55 to 60% of the African-American athletes at the Power Five schools are now graduating at a lower rate than any other demographic in the country. And so it's important for our student athletes to understand that the value of education, the quality of your education means something. There's a situation where, you see a transcript and you look at the major and you look at the different things and you go, wow, this transcript can't get into Howard. They can't do the work at Howard, and they're coming from, what we call PWIs. And you would think those PWIs are great schools, but they have them in majors where the major doesn't mean anything. So for me, it's all about the education. It's all about the academics. It's all about trying to prepare a student athlete for that 40 to 50 year period when they're done playing.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, definitely. So, definitely intellectual guy that's real smart, did a good job. I mean, congrats to your mom for putting that weight on her shoulders and making sure you got there, in the community also helping that out. I mean, talking to even some of the boosters and some of the Howard alumni that are intellectual. You got lawyers, doctors, very good pedigree of people that truly love Howard. I mean, how do you get them back? Because you have a really good pedigree, and I mean they're all around the country. How do you talk to them about getting back, coming back, giving back to the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think part of it was, laying down the foundation last year. We were 4-29. I'm not running from it. I'm not hiding from it. It's the reality of who we were, and being able to build on that. And I think we've had probably, a great 5-month run. We've finished up our recruiting. As you guys well know, we have some high-profiled and well-publicized recruits that are coming in. And I think that's really galvanized and excited our alumni base. And I think with that, the next thing is, how do we ignite that? How do we bring the community back to be part of Howard, to get them to contribute at some point, to donate potentially, to come back to games, to buy more gear in the bookstore, to be proud of the place that they went. And so that's kind of the goal for us, is to be able to bring a lot of pride back to the Howard community and the Howard alums.
One thing, Coach, real quick, I think just a little statement. You should have A school versus B school, Coach. Just bring back alumni, have an alumni game, and just really rock out the gym.
No, that's a great point, and that's something that's well taken, and thank you for sharing that. We will try to incorporate that, because that's a great thought.
And that's good stuff. Good job, Coach. Because I'm going to get to something in a second, because there's a particular challenge, Coach, that you have that I know at Howard University that they kind of weigh heavily on the education. They weigh heavily on the fact that the grade point average, because I know Dr. Frederick and athletic director Kerry Davis, they definitely look at academics. Academics at Howard University is key. And that being said, sometimes there is a challenge, as you alluded to, because students think that they could come and just play sports, but you have to be a student athlete, and it's not athlete student. And definitely at Howard University, it's student athlete. I'm going to get you to weigh in on that in just a second. We're going to take another break. That's the end of the first half. Is halftime. We play a full game here. It's Urban Media Today Talk Sports with Coach William Greg Hoyd Jr. We got my man Ray Porter Jr. I don't know why I say his name that way. And then we have Coach Kenneth Blakeney, the Howard University head men's basketball coach. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.
Urban Media Today is your source for entertainment, news, sports, and lifestyle. It's your online resource for health and fitness, providing tips to decrease your heart disease or increase your good spirits. When you can't find who made the top picks in HBCU sports or what part of the country is most exciting or affordable to travel with the entire family, Urban Media Today is there to provide you with all that you need and just a click away. Log on to urbanmediatoday.com now. Find us on social media. Urban Media Today, your lifestyle information and blog website.